This podcast is made possible by the listener members of Nashville Public Radio. This is the Nash Villager Podcast. It's January 31st, 2025. On this day, in 1864, an acclaimed actor and future infamous presidential assassin began a 2-week stand of performances in Nashville. I'm Tony Gonzalez, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee, plus context and history from WPLN News. The infamous person we're talking about today is John Wilkes Booth. His arrival in town spurred the newspaper The Nashville Daily Union to describe him as a distinguished young actor. It was quite a moment as he performed at the Nashville Theater downtown in 1864. He drew rave reviews, including for his take on Hamlet. And by the end of the run, the so-called rising star was deemed to have met expectations of theatergoers. One line from one of the articles stands out with some dark irony, plus the gift of hindsight. The newspaper wrote that for John Wilkes Booth, quote, "The time is not distant when he will attain his highest professional fame." It was 14 months later, in a theater, that he assassinated President Abraham Lincoln. In just a few minutes, we'll hear the latest reporting on immigration and deportation in Tennessee from Char Daston, who's been covering the potential impacts on the recipients of DACA protections. That's coming up after the newscast.
You know how important WPLN News has been to you and your family, and you have seen how high-quality local journalism is necessary to a thriving community. You can ensure that this service stays strong and stays available to all of Nashville and Middle Tennessee. Join the Producers Circle with your gift of $100 or more each month and make the bold statement that you support the mission of a more informed and engaged community. Start your philanthropic journey with Nashville Public Radio today at WPLN.org.
For WPLN News in Nashville, I'm Tony Gonzalez. School vouchers, disaster relief, and harsher penalties for immigration-friendly policies all passed during Tennessee's special legislative session this week. WPLN's Miriam reports that altogether, the bills will cost the state nearly $1 billion.
Tennessee will get a new state division to enforce immigration laws and $5 million in grants to incentivize local law enforcement agencies to partner with ICE. Plus, state officials can be removed from their positions and charged with a Class E felony if they vote in favor of sanctuary policies for immigrants. The governor's school voucher program will cost around $450 million in its first year, with an expectation of growth in the years to come. And Tennessee counties hit by Hurricane Helene will get more than $200 million in aid. Mariana Baca-Yao, WPLN News.
Starting Saturday, Nashvillians' receipts will be slightly higher at checkouts. That's because the sales tax will be going up by a half cent. The change comes after voters approved the increase in November. It was part of the city's transit referendum and will support improvements like new sidewalks, new transit centers, and more buses. The increase will bring the sales tax rate in Davidson County up to 9.75%. That's on par with most of Nashville's surrounding counties. Tennessee does have some of the highest sales tax rates in the country, but the bulk of what Nashvillians pay go toward the state. They take 7%. The remaining 2.75% goes to the city. 2 additional Nashville students were charged yesterday under the state's law against making threats of mass violence. Police say an 18-year-old at Hunter's Lane told a student he was planning a shooting, and a 12-year-old at Intrepid College Prep was arrested for a threatening text message that included a video of a gun. There have now been 11 students arrested for threats since the fatal shooting inside Antioch High School last week. Mount Juliet native and NASA astronaut Butch Wilmore went for a walk in space yesterday morning.
I got my left waist tether set on black on black. Right now I'm on the circular 506 handrail. My right wrist tether is connected right.
Wilmore and his fellow astronaut Sonny Williams collected samples from the outside of the International Space Station to see if they could hold microbial life. They also performed some maintenance. The spacewalk came amid a call to speed up Wilmore and Williams' return to Earth. A leading figure in Nashville's music industry, known for his advocacy for songwriters, has died. Ben Vaughn, CEO of Warner Chappell, died suddenly yesterday at age 49. Axios Nashville reports he rose quickly through the music publishing industry to lead Warner starting in 2012. He was named to Billboard's Power 100 list last year, among many industry accolades. When wildfires besieged Los Angeles, Grammy organizers had to decide whether the show would go on. It will, but now they're approaching Sunday night's awards telecast with an added purpose, fundraising for recovery efforts. Senior music writer Julie Height has more.
The 67th Annual Grammy Awards will serve as a reminder that ecological crises know no boundaries. At the same time, the show will cap off a year when genre boundaries seemed less solid. Blockbuster country crossover efforts from Beyoncé in particular garnered the most nominations of all, in contrast to her lack of recognition from the country music industry. But the full scope of Nashville nods is more complex. They not only reflect the upholding of tradition, but the embrace of evolution. T-Bone Burnett, Jack White, and the Black Keys, each visionaries of preservation as producers and curators, have their own work up for Americana or Rock awards. Singer-songwriter Maddie Diaz has received her first nods after many years of refining her confessional approach.
Every time I try to walk away, I stay, you knew I would.
Her collaborator, Casey Musgraves, is back in country contention, with a cosmic-tinged folk pop set, no less. And one of Musgraves and Beyoncé's co-producers, Ian Fitchuk, could win a trophy for the ease with which he blurred sonic boundaries this year. Countless projects reflect obvious Nashville contributions, but some are subtler. Take the elliptical trumpet passages that Rod McGaha played on Brittany Howard's album, What Now? Her most expansive work to date, it's up for an alternative award. And since she'll be performing, we'll see her translate her music to the Grammy stage. Julie Height, WPLN.
Tennessee could soon be home to the latest WNBA franchise. That's after a group put in a bid to bring women's basketball to Nashville. The group is led by former Governor Bill Haslam, who is also an owner of the Nashville Predators, and his wife, Chrissy. They are joined by country musicians Faith Hill and Tim McGraw, as well as former professional athletes Peyton Manning and Candace Parker. City leaders have been pushing to bring women's sports to Nashville for years. This bid is privately financed and would not rely on taxpayer dollars. Exact figures have not been released, but recent WNBA expansions have cost somewhere around $100 million. If Nashville wins the bid, the team would not need a new arena. They would play at Bridgestone. The Tennessean reports that the WNBA will make its decision in the next 5 to 6 months. If the group is successful, the Tennessee team would become the 16th in the league and would be called the Tennessee Summit in honor of the former Lady Vols coach. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. Some immigrants who risk being deported under President Trump's orders had no choice in coming to the U.S. They are recipients of DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It protects undocumented people brought here by their parents. WPLN's Char Daston visited a local DACA recipient at one of the popular coffee shops he owns.
Luis Cortez is a successful businessman. He owns 4 Red Bicycle coffee shops. He's lived in this country for almost 25 years, and he still has to plan for what happens if he's deported.
In these homes that I come from, this is a conversation at the dinner table every night. Everybody's saying, what's going to happen? What if? And I can guarantee you that every person that is here illegally has a plan.
This isn't some abstract fear. When Luis was 17, his parents got deported.
Just seeing my mom and my dad in handcuffs as a 17-year-old kid, I tried to punch the glass to get to them. And I had a sheriff, just grab me and grab my dad and drag both of us out. And I remember just screaming to this sheriff deputy, let him go, he's not a criminal.
That left him on his own. He had to leave school and work to survive. Like his mom and dad, Cortez is undocumented. But since 2011, he's had DACA. That grants him temporary permission to stay in the country and work. If President Trump makes good on his promise of deporting all undocumented immigrants, that would include DACA recipients. As of 2023, there were almost 600,000 of them in America and about 7,000 in Tennessee. They all have one thing in common. Coming to the U.S. wasn't their choice. Cortez says his mother brought him here in the early 2000s when he was 7.
What I remember from Mexico's poverty, no paved roads, our schools were literally falling apart. People knew that people left their towns to come for a better life. I mean, that was a known thing.
After his parents were deported, he hung on to their dream of escaping poverty as an American. When he first heard about DACA, he jumped at the chance.
And I remember I said, wait a minute, do I qualify? And I didn't, because I never finished high school because my parents had gone deported and I went to work. So I went and got my GED that same day.
Eventually, he was able to go to college and work in the corporate world and start his own business. The work authorization from DACA expanded his options. And Cortez isn't alone. A 2023 survey from the University of California, San Diego found that nearly 60% of people moved to jobs with better pay and benefits after receiving DACA. Cortez says he's grateful for the protections DACA has given him, but he has to renew his status every 2 years.
Do you know what it's like having your fingerprints taken, having a mugshot taken every 2 years of you, just so that they say, all right, you passed the test, you can keep staying here? Have I not proven myself already?
For years, Congress and presidents have talked about giving DACA recipients a path to citizenship. That hasn't happened, so Cortez remains vulnerable to President Trump's promised mass deportations. His wife and kids are citizens, but the plan is for them to go with him if he has to leave.
You know, I'm their sole provider.
It would also leave his 4 red bicycle locations without an owner. But Cortez still sees a future where things work out differently.
I have hope, like I've always had, that good will come out of this and that God will touch the heart of whoever has the keys to this White House.
Char Daston, WPLN News.
We do this roundup of Nashville news every weekday, so subscribe in your favorite podcasting app to make sure you never miss an episode. And if you like this, you'll probably enjoy the Nashvillager newsletter too. You can get perspectives from my colleagues here at Nashville Public Radio and links to the stories that we're following. Sign up for those daily emails at wpln.org/Nashvillager. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back next week.